welcome back to Studio Lou. It's Cindy, and today I'm just going to be working a little bit on my Rainbow Brite journal ephemera. So yesterday was a busy day. We did a bit of thrifting. I don't know if you've seen my thrift haul video yet that I posted, but it is up and ready. And so yeah, I have been organizing. I have got my desk all reorganized. So now when I need to sew things, I actually have my sewing machine right at the back of this desk. So it's going to be so much easier. I put away a bunch of stuff. I like completely reorganized. So it's kind of nice. So I think I'm just going to do a little bit of collaging this morning. I've got a bunch of stuff out of my scrap bin that I would like to reuse. Lots of good colorful stuff. And I was thinking about just literally making some little snippy bits of things because the color range here is quite rainbow. And then I think I might just do kind of like a border around this piece of book page that I've glued down on a book page. This is from an IKEA bag from a few years ago. IKEA had this incredible like gnome wrapping paper. Oh my gosh. It was amazing. I haven't been to IKEA. I would love to know like what they have for the holidays this year. IKEA usually has some pretty nice like designed stuff, so hard to say. I'd love to go there, but I have not ventured there. I don't think I will venture there right now because unfortunately IKEA is all within the red zone in this area, and I don't want to be around any of that because I'm a super safety girl. So yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay, just gonna take some snippets of all the different things that I have right here. So we went for a little thrifting adventure yesterday, and we ended up going for a bit of a nighttime jaunt in a playground that was like in an old kind of area that's no one has been in, I think, for a long time. And it had this really rustic kind of playground that was, I mean, I shouldn't say rustic, that's not the right word, like natural kind of, like it was made from sort of like fake logs, and I think it's for older kids that have to be able to like, you know, climb a log to get to a high platform. So we did a bit of that last night, and it was way too cold, so we didn't spend a lot of time out, but my daughter had fun, and so that's what matters. So that was yesterday. I didn't get nearly enough done that I wanted to yesterday, but I don't know, when do I ever these days get anything done? It feels like I never do. But today I have to focus on Christmassy presents for kiddos. And I also have to get my stockings out so I can start stuffing them as I go. So I now use totally untraditional stockings, but they're so fun. So I made, you know, the characters called Yip Yips from Sesame Street. They were Henson puppets, and they sort of said yip 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 yip, and they were like all these different colors, and they were actually crocheted yarn puppets. They're really cute. So that is what I did. There's a pattern for Yip Yips. It is a free pattern. It's on Ravelry.com. I can link to it in the description box actually, and I made, I believe, 8 of them because I wanted enough of them to hang across my entire mantle. So now instead of using traditional stockings, I use the Yip Yips. So the inside of the puppet's mouth, like they were characters that were all different colors, but the inside of their mouth is black, and so it's kind of like looking into like a black kind of puppet's mouth, right? But it extends down the entire body length of the puppet. And so basically like you fill that up with stuff like a stocking, and it's really cool. So that is what I'm using now instead of stockings, and they're actually quite big. So I usually fill 2 of them for my kids with, you know, all different stuff. I'm kind of a non-traditional, like, stocking stuffer. You might get a juice box, you might get an orange, you might get a puzzle, like all sorts of things. So I actually got a few cute little things from the thrift store yesterday for my daughter. And so I'm just getting those all clean today, and they will go into her stocking. I'm going to try this year not to really have a whole ton of sweets. I'm trying to cut down on the sweets in this house. Mainly because I don't need to be eating them. And kids just, well, you know, sweets. So, yeah, this is cute. I like this. So basically today I'm going to work on this. I have to cut a pattern to make a 4-panel circle, or not circle, but ball, a whole ball, because I'm making a character from a Netflix show for my daughter that she loves, and it's called True in the Rainbow Kingdom. And I want to make this character called Cumulo, and Cumulo is a cloud. The True, the little girl who's the main character, she rides around on this cloud. And so I have this idea that combines like hand making and also reuse. So I was just going to like hand make, like if you imagine a ball in the center that has the face, and then a ball on each side, because the cloud is sort of anthropomorphic. It has like these little arms kind of, and it flies around. So those are going to be the 3 balls that I have to make. And then I was going to make more balls around the sides, and then maybe like a little seat thing in the middle, and like a doll to go in the middle. But instead I came up with actually what I think is a cooler idea. So I don't know if you are familiar with nursing pillows or breastfeeding pillows, but they're like a U-shaped pillow basically that you would put the baby's head in the center. So they're actually perfect for fitting around a toddler's waist. So my idea now is to still make those 3 balls out of this, like, it's like a white, it's not faux fur, but it's like a puffy kind of, like, it looks like a lamb basically, fabric. And then I'm also going to cover the breastfeeding pillow in that same fabric, and then I'm going to attach them all together. So what you'll have is like this U-shaped pillow that goes around her waist, and then the 3 balls on the front that will look like Cumulo the cloud. So in the cartoon, True, the girl, she kind of flies around in this cloud. So my daughter will be able to wrap this around her waist like she's flying around in this cloud. So that I think is going to completely make her so like chuffed. And so that's what I'm going to be working on today. Maybe if I get it finished, well, when I get it finished, I will share it here so you can see it. But yeah, it's really cute. Okay. I like this because, you know, it's like, it combines the technique of like just collaging and having fun with scraps, and then like, you know, you've still got your theme from your book page. Very cute. So I've come to the realization that I need to be more diligent about super cleaning my hands after I use glue, because like I have glue on my fingers like all the time now, and I don't want that, especially in the winter time because it's so dry here, and like your hands get so dry. And I think especially using Fabri-Tac, you need to be really careful with that, because it can actually pull like your skin up when you are, if you're peeling it off your finger, you can actually peel up your skin. And I did that to one of my fingers a little tiny bit, so it's actually getting better now, but it was a little bit sore, like a little bit, not a lot, I'm just complaining about nothing, but a little bit. But I guess my warning is just be a little careful, because that glue is like an acetate type glue, so you want to be careful with that. As I'm like, you know, touching this glue, I'm just not practicing what I'm preaching here, but this is just a glue stick. It's not going to hurt me. No. Okay, so I think we're getting to a decent size for this now. My idea here, I think, is just going to be like a large journal card that I'm going to stick on with, or not stick on, but paper clip on with an altered paper clip. And so I'm going to try to kind of make it like a rectangle about that big, because it's got to fit in the journal. And then I'll probably sew around it, or maybe even crazy quilt on top of the scraps. That could be fun. My sewing machine that I use for paper sewing, oh my gosh, it's just hilarious. So I had this old sewing machine that was made by the brand Omega, and for like a long time I used that for sewing clothing, and it was great. Then I started using it also for paper, because like I wasn't too hung up on the idea if like, oh, if it gets broken, how devastating, because it's an old machine. I've had it for probably 20 years, and for half of those years I never even used it because I didn't even know how to sew. So yeah, I am one of those people who just picks up hobbies, and before I even know how to do them, I have all these supplies, and like they just sit for sometimes years before I get to them. But I'm trying to not do that as much, because yeah, it's like that's how you accumulate stuff, right? So I have a new sewing machine now. I have my Bernina, which I love, and I do not even think about paper with it. It is purely a garment kind of, well, quilting and like all things fabric, traditionalist kind of sewing on that baby. But now I have also a few vintage sewing machines. I have like 2, I think, vintage sewing machines, and then I have the original Omega, which now I don't know why. Every time I try to use it to sew paper now, it used to work perfectly, the thread will break. Like I will get maybe 5 stitches in and the thread will break. And so it is just so frustrating, and I probably could take it to get serviced. I think what might be wrong, I think it might have a faulty tensioner, because the reasons why your thread breaks typically is because either your machine is threaded incorrectly, or it has too high of tension. So I have used no tension, very little tension, medium tension, higher tension. I have tensioned this thing beyond tensioning and nothing makes it better. So I probably could get it serviced, but I don't know. I might just let it go. I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm like sort of attached to it because I used it for so long, but like I really don't need it. So the sewing machine that I now sew paper with, my parents gave to me, and it's kind of like in a similar situation. It lived a long life of not being used because my mother, she kind of wanted to sew, but then she didn't sew. And my parents often get into this weird like scenario where like, how to say this without getting personal, but basically my mom wants to try to do something, but like she wants to figure it out on her own. And then my dad, like he's very proficient at things and he wants to like help her, but he also doesn't really like stay out of her way and let her kind of like figure it out. And so then she gets frustrated. And then my dad ended up like being the one who, they got the sewing machine. He sewed curtains for like all the rooms in their house, and then I don't think they ever used it again. I'm serious. They put it in a closet in this poor sewing machine that just like never got to get used. So because my mom just doesn't want to be bugged, like, and so she's like, I'm just not going to bother doing this. Nobody will leave me alone. So I do have plans to kind of like reintroduce her to sewing, maybe get her a sewing machine at some point if she shows that she's interested in that again. But my mom is like, she's not really like upset about things like that. She just moves on. She doesn't really care. So that being said, my parents' sewing machine is now sitting on my desk here, but I've had to fight with this thing because over the years it got dusty. Probably it had you know, not been used, so it was really hard to make it work. And at first it would only, like, you know how you have usually like a crank to set your like your different settings, your stitch type, your stitch length and width, all of that. So the cranks were really stiff, and so at one point it got locked in where it would only sew in reverse. So I'm like, okay, this thing is crazy. So then I just started to kind of like, I cleaned it, I manipulated the cranking wheels a bit on it, and just kind of played with it a lot. And I got it now to go into face a correct, you know, forward facing stitching, but only straight stitch. None of the other functions on the machine would work. So then I was like, okay, this is what this will do now. It's just a straight stitching machine. But then I was like, you know, I really like to sew around things with a zigzag stitch on in my journals. So I've got to get this to go to a zigzag. So now I have again manipulated it a bunch of times and gotten it to go into a zigzag. And it went into reverse. It did all these things. Like, it's just the funniest sewing machine ever. I don't know. And so I could take it to get serviced again, but like, I'm, you know, not wanting to do any of that kind of thing right now. So I'm not. But yeah, it's the funniest sewing machine. It totally makes me laugh. So, but it will work for this purpose. Now I need something to back this with. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to grab some paper. So now we have this. I'm going to put cabbage dye paper on the back of it. Let's do that. And then I'll probably sew around it with this hilarious, janky sewing machine. There we go. All right. Into my scraps. Speaking of which, where are my scraps? They're there. Usually I don't have to get up to go get my scraps, but there we are. Okay, I feel like I need a table that's like 10 times bigger than this. This is the issue with journal making and junk journaling, especially if you're using like authentic, like old materials, is that you need all this stuff around to like grab from to create what you're making. I feel like I'm making such slow progress with this ephemera. I don't know. I'm not like as fast as a lot of people, like where they just kind of print out a digital and they have something, you know, that they've cut from a book or whatnot, and then they just kind of like stick it down and they're done. I'm like, I don't know, overcomplicated maybe, but like I like making like little pieces of art like this. Like, you know, it's just, I think it does some kind of like justice to the fact that like I'm using this book page from a vintage, this is a comic book, and like I just want to make sure that what I'm doing is like my own art too. I'm not just like slapdashing things from books. But yeah. Okay, so the glue stick out of the way. Now we'll bring this mighty Kenmore 30 up here. And hopefully nobody gets hurt. Okay, we have power. Alrighty. You're not going to be able to see me stitch, but you are going to hear me, and you will hear me if anything goes wrong.